Good evening. My name is Beth Drucker, and I'm the president of Go Green Wilmette. We're delighted to have you here tonight to share a wonderful program called Addressing Climate Change at Home. Our speaker is Jay Futterman, who has also presented on EV cars. He is a solar ambassador for the Illinois Solar Energy Association. And despite a day job, he works tirelessly outside his day job to make the planet more sustainable. So, Jay, thank you for being a speaker for us again. We really look forward to your program, and we look forward to inviting people to Wilmette for the Renewable Energy Day this Saturday. And so, Jay, with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Beth. It's great to be back. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody again. So what I'm going to focus on today is stuff we can all do from home to fight climate change. And the reasons for this obviously are to protect the planet, but it's also to save money. Clean energy is the cheapest energy there is right now. I like to bring my most recent electric bill and show it off. $0. This is from August this past year. Normally people, that's probably their peak month with electricity use, but solar panels, efficient house, you too can have a $0 electric bill. So what I'm going to do today is kind of take y'all on a tour of my house, highlight some of the things that I've done along the way to try and make my house energy efficient, try and reduce the amount of greenhouse gas that I personally use. And this is stuff that everybody could do. There's real simple stuff. There's stuff that's maybe a little more complicated or more expensive, but ultimately, pretty much everything I'm going to talk about today ultimately saves money and reduces carbon pollution. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Like so. And okay. This was practiced so well. There we go. All right, great. Fighting climate change from home. Like I said, my name is Jay Futterman. I am a part of Go Green Highland Park. I also work with Illinois Solar Education Association and the Sierra Club in Lake County. But first, a quick disclaimer. I'm not an engineer, financial advisor, building tradesperson, or in any way professionally trained to give home advice. That being said, I think what I have to say is sound, well-reasoned, and comes from my own lived experience. I could talk about this stuff for hours, but our time today is pretty limited. I will have a list of resources that we can email out after the presentation. So don't feel like you have to furiously take notes and everything. We're going to cover a lot of ground today. And my goal is that you take home 3, 4, 5 different things that you can incorporate in your own house as a start and do more as time goes on. So who coined the term carbon footprint? That's something that we hear a lot, right? Was it Al Gore? Was it Bill McKibben? Greta Thunberg? Or was it BP, British Petroleum? Well, it was actually British Petroleum. It's kind of a way of putting the onus of everything going wrong with the climate on us instead of on who's really responsible. You and I are not the problem. It's the fossil fuel companies. Like tobacco companies, they sell a product that we're addicted to. And government action, markets, large social movements, and most importantly, elections make the biggest impact. Now, that being said, what each of us does matters. The tips that I'm going to go through are things each of us can do to make a difference, and that adds up. It reduces energy use. It will save you money. And also, really importantly, it's going to make you feel better too. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there. And when you feel like you're taking some ownership of a solution, that's very important. But don't let this stop at your front door. Always try and do more. Take one additional step. Tell one more person. So some major themes here we're going to cover is use less power. And that comes down to conservation and efficiency. Use cleaner power. And that means electrifying everything and shifting our use from periods of high demand to lower demand. This will save money. Fossil gas prices are up over 100% year to year. And I'm going to refer to natural gas as fossil gas because I'm not going to allow them to continue greenwashing and saying there's anything natural about destroying the planet. Plan ahead. Do not buy in an emergency. You know, if you're buying a water heater, furnace, air conditioner, you're locking in your carbon emissions from that unit for the next 15 years. So plan ahead. Don't buy an emergency. Like I said, take it beyond your home. So where are we at with electricity in Illinois, at least as of 2021? Well, Illinois is in a large part a nuclear energy state. That's this big blue half the pie here. About a quarter of the pie is made up of coal. Unfortunately, that's decreasing all the time. We've got a fair amount of fossil gas and a growing amount of wind. Solar is this tiny little blue, but that's actually an underestimation of what there really is. So as we talk about electrifying everything, we need to make sure that we're getting our electricity from clean sources. And thanks to the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, which was passed just about 1 year ago, Illinois is now on this transition, this blue line, which will take us all the way up to 50% renewable energy by 2040, the remainder of that coming from the nuclear fleet. So the grid is getting cleaner, so we should be electrifying. And in the midst of all this, the Inflation Reduction Act dropped, which is going to really change everything. And I expect a very beneficial way, $360 billion towards energy innovation and climate change mitigation and stuff we can actually all take advantage of at home. So using energy off peak, right? So that's a big concept. Most of us, I think probably we just pay a flat rate for our electricity that we get from ComEd. But if you have an electric car or solar panels, it may make sense to go on their hourly pricing policy. So there's demand that fluctuates throughout the day. There's supply that fluctuates throughout the day. And they come up with a real-time hourly price, which if you're enrolled in that program, that's what you pay. So here's May 30th from this year. For example, between the hours of about 1 a.m. and 8 a.m., the price of electricity actually went below zero. So if I had my car plugged in overnight, I was actually being paid to take energy off the grid. Now, later in the day, it gets hot. People come home from work, they turn their air conditioners on, and electricity demand and thus the price peaks. And what happens when there's peak demand is they fire up these really dirty peaker plants. So that's more expensive energy, it's dirtier energy. But you know, at around that time, I'm still contributing to the grid with solar energy, perhaps even selling some back. And when I sell that energy back, I'm getting paid 15 cents a kilowatt hour for it. So whatever we could do to shift our usage pattern, shift our demand away from those times where we're going to be relying on dirtier energy from the grid, it's going to help us lower our impact. And whether you're part of this program or not, that's where the energy is coming from. But it's something to take a look at if you do have an EV or if you do have solar panels. So I'm guessing we all live in existing homes right now. In an ideal world, we would all live probably in a net zero home. And some of these houses look kind of futuristic, like in the top right. Some look pretty regular, like in the bottom right. But what are the characteristics of a home like this? Well, they make their own electricity with solar panels on the roof. They have a really tight and efficient building envelope, efficient LED lighting, efficient use of water. The appliances are all electric, heat pump for heating and air conditioning, heat pump for hot water, perhaps a heat pump for a clothes dryer. So ideally, we have houses that use electricity, that make their own electricity, and that's how we really get rid of fossil fuels. But most of us don't live in a brand new construction. So I mentioned heat pumps there. I'm going to come back to heat pumps, but that's getting a lot of attention, especially with the Inflation Reduction Act. And most people don't really know much about them, but almost all of us have heat pumps in our house. That's how refrigerators work. That's how air conditioners work. They work by moving heat, not creating heat. So they're actually 300 to 400% efficient. So if you have an efficient gas furnace, a 90% efficient furnace, you're taking 1 unit of energy to make 0.9 units of heat. Well, a heat pump will take 1 unit of energy and will move 300 units of heat. So it's triple the efficiency of a comparable gas appliance. So they can be used to heat and cool the home. An air conditioner is a heat pump. You put a reverse switch on there and it becomes a heat pump heater. You can use them to make hot water. I think I hear my heat pump hot water compressor on right now. You can dry your clothes with it. They may have higher upfront costs, but they save money over time. And I'll show you the heat pump that I got. We had to replace our air conditioner in somewhat of an emergency. The heat pump was actually less expensive than the comparable air conditioner. But like I said, we all live in existing homes, unfortunately, with gas appliances. And not only does burning fossil gas release carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, but also releases a lot of indoor pollutants, those PM 2.5 micro particles that can get into lungs, volatile organic compounds, carbon monoxide, nitrous oxide, all stuff that's really bad for lung health. So think about your house. Where do you use fossil fuels in your house? Your car, your furnace, your stove, your dryer, your hot water heater. Those are the main places. How can you reduce your energy use? Being more efficient, changing them over to electric. A really great website for all this stuff is called Rewiring America. They have ordered step-by-step instructions how to do this, and they have a fantastic calculator about how much you can save with the Inflation Reduction Act. So check that out. And, you know, not all of us live in our own houses. Some live in multi-unit housing, and there's still a lot you can do in that situation. You can talk to the people who are in charge of the building about recycling or composting, getting EV chargers put in the parking lot. If there's common areas that use electricity, you can put rooftop solar and power those, or you yourself can decide to get your electricity from community solar. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes. So where do we get started here? Well, one really simple place is with the ComEd Home Energy Assessment. This is free. They'll basically come to your house, they'll replace your light bulbs, they'll put some pipe insulation in, replace some faucets, maybe sell you a smart thermostat. That's pretty basic stuff. That's stuff everybody should do. But the next step up, and one that I found really helpful, was having a professional energy audit. They'll do things like a blower door test, infrared cameras. They'll look at your appliances and look for safety issues. And I'll talk about my experience with the professional energy audit in the coming slides. So we'll get on to the tour of the house though, right? So we'll start up at the roof, and I've got solar panels on the east side and on the west side of my roof. And I've had them since 2016. And in Illinois, the cheapest way to get electricity is by solar, by far. Illinois Solar Education Association is a great resource for this. It's illinoissolar.org. And as Beth mentioned, this Saturday is the Illinois Solar Home Tour. There's over 120 homes and businesses across the state that are opening their doors for their community to come and check out their solar installation. That's from 10 to 3 on this coming Saturday. I'm on the tour. And you can learn there's fantastic state and federal incentives now. They'll make it pay off. As long as you have a roof that has good exposure and some decent life left in it, solar is definitely a way to go, and it will pay for itself. If you don't have your own roof, or if your roof is kind of most of the way through its life, or there's trees in the way, community solar would be a good option. And what community solar means is you're purchasing your electricity from acres of solar panels that are being built off in rural parts of Illinois. You're able to buy electricity from those solar fields at a price that's guaranteed to be less than what you're paying ComEd. Great information about community solar is available at Citizens Utility Board or Wilmette's Community Solar Project. So right beneath the roof is the attic. So when we moved into our house, our original home inspector said, "Oh yeah, you got some nice spray foam insulation up there." And I thought that was great. Well, the energy assessor came through with his infrared camera and, you know, found that there's areas, there's cavities, there's missing insulation spots. And on the infrared camera, those real cold spots, this was done in the winter, show up as this deep purple. So there was definitely a lot of gaps there in what I thought was good. And then the gable wall was just really under insulated. So he said it was as if I had a window open in my attic 24/7. So we had some additional spray foam insulation put in. The right is what it looks like now. That's a really thorough, good job. It decreased the attic's leakage to the outside by 75% and the home's leakage by 20%. And then this is where that cavity was before. So one of the biggest bang for your bucks that you can get in terms of reducing your energy bills and reducing your greenhouse gas emissions is actually focusing on the building envelope. Good insulation and really important air sealing. Air sealing, you're going to get one of the biggest bangs for your buck. Literally, I had money flying out of my attic roof. So I knew this all because I hired a professional energy auditor. $500 to $1,000 perhaps, depending on the size of your home and the scope of what they're going to do. If you do use spray foam insulation, you should insist on one that has a low global warming potential blowing agent. Now, I'll have a link to that in the sources, but we don't want to use something that's going to make the problem worse while we're trying to fix it. So moving down from the attic into the bedroom. So like I said before, LED lights instead of incandescent bulbs. ComEd will change them out for you. They pay for themselves in terms of efficiency. Ceiling fans are great. You can have the fan on so you don't need to turn on the air conditioning. But if you're not in the room, there's no real purpose for the fan. A fan cools people, it doesn't cool air. So in the summertime, you can set the thermostat a little bit higher. In the wintertime, simple, put on a sweater, set the thermostat a little bit lower. Windows. So this is the infrared of one of our bedroom windows, and you can see that there's a definite area of leakage there. And an 1/8 inch gap along the sash of a window is equivalent to a 2.5 inch diameter hole in the wall. So we wouldn't want to have a 2.5 inch hole in the wall. So when you have windows like that, think about how you can weatherproof them a little bit. And over into the bathroom, ComEd will do this stuff for you. They'll replace your shower head and sink with aerators. The thinking there is that when you use hot water, a lot of energy goes into producing that hot water. And if you can use less water but still have the same washing effect, you're going to use less energy. So that's a pretty simple thing to do. Then downstairs into the hallway, this is what a blower door test looks like. They'll close all your windows and doors throughout the house. They put up this kind of screen on your front door with a big fan at the bottom, and that fan just exhausts air to the outside, and then they can measure where all the leaks in the house are and how tight overall your house envelope is. So right next to that blower door is our door to the garage, and you can see with the infrared, it is super, super leaky. So cold air just comes right through the garage door all winter long. So a simple fix for that is a little draft guard, $10 at the hardware store. And that'll really help keep that draft out. It's not perfect, but it's a very economical improvement that anyone can make. But through that door is the garage. And in the garage, we have my car. I drive a Chevy Bolt. It's all electric. It's plugged in this picture right now. I love it. I've had it for about 5 years now. You can check out 15 other EVs at the EV show on Saturday. That's a great opportunity because, it used to be you could go to the dealership and drive home with a car, but those days are unfortunately gone. You have to really plan ahead. All these electric cars and many cars in general have really long waiting lists of 6 months to even up to a year before you can get them. So if you are thinking about getting an electric car, get moving on it. Illinois has a rebate on the electric cars. The Inflation Reduction Act has a tax credit as well. It's complicated, but very, very well intentioned. Details on that will become more clear over time. But transportation is the biggest source of climate emissions in America at this time. It's even worse than the energy sector. And an interesting fact that I read recently, a car that runs by gas, 80% of that energy is wasted as heat. So only 20% of that is actually used to make the car go forward. 80% is wasted. With an electric car, 90% of the energy is used to propel the car forward. So electric cars are way more efficient than gas cars in terms of their energy use. Plus, you could source it from clean energy, which you can't do that with a gas car. Also pictured here, I've got my bike. On the back of the bike, I've got a little rack, and I've got a saddlebag or a pannier on there. So panniers are fantastic. They can enable you to, go grocery shopping with your bike. I bike to work often and, have my stuff in the pannier. So it's more than just a leisure exercise. It's a way of actually getting around. And then I've got my electric lawnmower here, which is just a total beast. Just got it this year. Electric lawnmowers are way quieter. They work really well. They don't burn gas and oil. And non-electric, gas-powered yard tools just release a ton of really, really nasty particulate emissions. So electric mowers are definitely the way to go. So we'll go out to the yard now. We have a great pollinator garden, way better than turf grass for so many reasons, but it sequesters carbon, it retains water, it's an end market for compost, so we can purchase compost and further sequester carbon into our soil, and it's a home for all kinds of pollinators. There's a little butterfly camouflaged in there. If you have a landscaping service, tell your landscapers that you don't want them to use gas-powered mowers and leaf blowers, that you really want electric only, or use a rake. That's even better. Or just let your leaves lie there for a while, let your grass grow in May. You guys know all about this stuff. It's important for our ecosystem and also for climate as well. And, if you got a yard, use it to grow some food. Homegrown food tastes the best. And, we all know about the benefits of eating local. Food production is actually responsible for a huge proportion of greenhouse gases. So if we can eat local, support our local farmers, community-supported agriculture, we know that eating lower on the food chain, eating less red meat, more plant-based foods, cows are methane machines. They produce methane. They use a ton of water. They use a ton of space for their food. Avoid the red meat. And even more importantly than that is don't waste food, right? A lot of energy, work goes into growing and transporting food, so certainly don't waste it. And the food that you don't eat, make sure you compost it, because if you throw food into the garbage, into the landfill, it decomposes into methane, which is 80 times more potent a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. But if you compost in your backyard, or if your city has a program, or through a program like Collective Resource, that carbon will mostly get sequestered into compost, and it can be used to enrich soil. All right. So what about cooking, right? So on the left, we see my gas range. On the right is an induction burner. So this is powered by electricity. This is not the same as those kind of coiled electric resistance burners that some people have for their stove. Those coiled burners are not efficient. They're very slow to heat, very slow to cool. People don't like to cook on those, but the induction is faster than gas. It doesn't require, it's faster than gas, doesn't require fossil fuels, and it's extremely responsive in terms of temperature going up and down. You could stick your hand on there and it won't burn because it only heats things that are magnetic. The one that I got there was, I think, like $150. You can get them for under $200. Anytime we're doing a lot of cooking for a long time or boiling water, it goes on the induction burner. And a really big study came out within the last year from Stanford, looking at gas stoves, new ones, old ones. They all leak. They all leak methane. They all release carbon monoxide and nitrous oxide, even a brand new stove. The leaks from gas-powered stoves are equivalent to 500,000 cars per year. So shift away. If you need to replace your stove, get a full induction cooktop. All right, over to the fridge. So make sure your fridge is an Energy Star fridge. And then interestingly, refrigerators, they all have refrigerant inside. It used to be the chlorofluorocarbons, which would chew holes through the ozone layer. Those got banned. And now they're hydrofluorocarbons. But those are really potent greenhouse gases, and those are on their way out in favor of HFC-free refrigerants like R600A. My refrigerator, unfortunately, it has this R134A, which is a really potent greenhouse gas. So when it's time to get rid of the fridge, we need to make sure that we properly dispose of that refrigerant. After eating, dishes in the dishwasher. Well, hey, my dishwasher has a delay start, which means I can have it use all that energy and off-peak times overnight when electricity prices go really low, when the grid's a lot cleaner. If you have an option for a heat dry or no heat dry, set it to no heat dry. You really don't need to heat up those dishes as they're drying. They'll dry either way, and you're going to use a lot less energy and pay a lot less in the process. All right, over to the living room. So the thermostat, a smarter programmable thermostat is a great thing for people who are interested in that sort of thing. ComEd will install one for you in many cases, or at least sell you one at a discounted rate. Really simple stuff like curtains. So we have a western facing window here. So in the summertime, as the sun is starting to sink low in the sky, we always draw the curtains, keep that heat out. In the cooler or shoulder seasons, we'll have that up so we can take advantage of natural lighting and the heating that provides. In the ceiling, we have recessed can lighting like a lot of people do. And a really interesting thing that came up during the energy audit with the infrared was just how leaky those can lights are. So really dark purple there. So that's just heat escaping right through the ceiling and outside. So the simple fix for that is a retrofit. So these are LED lights, screw basically right into the bulb socket, and they'll press fit up against the ceiling, make more of a seal, and block that air leakage. All right, down to the laundry room. A quick plug here for Meliora laundry powder. We've been using this for a while. It comes in a cardboard canister. It's made locally. It works really well. There's no plastic involved with that. Plastic also contributes quite a bit throughout its life cycle to carbon emissions. Good product. And like many other washing detergents, it works fine in cold water. 75% of the energy in a clothes washer is used actually to heat the water. So wash cold for everything that you can. Do that delay start if that's an option for you. Again, delay your use of power to cheaper and cleaner times. And then heat pump dryer. Beth informed me about these a couple weeks ago. Very interesting, relatively new technology, works on that same basic premise of moving heat rather than creating heat. And in the process, it's able to draw moisture out of the clothes. It takes a little bit longer than a regular dryer, but it's a lot more efficient, and it does not require any outside venting. So in our laundry room, we have a 4-inch hole in the wall, which is a big penetration in the building envelope. So if we're able to get rid of that, our building envelope becomes that much tighter and our house that much more energy efficient. And of course, the most energy efficient, cheapest way to dry your clothes is outside in the sun on a clothesline. Maybe not in the winter, but for a good portion of the year, it works great. All right, on to the heating and cooling, heat pumps. So building heating is the biggest use of fossil gas that we have in our part of the country. And as I mentioned, heat pumps are basically just air conditioners that run in reverse. We have cold weather models now that will work down to 5 degrees outside. So essentially, even if it's really cold outside, there's still some heat in the air. And these heat pumps are able to grab that heat and bring it inside the house. We still have a backup gas furnace. Right now I have my heat pump set where the gas furnace will kick on if it's 15 degrees or lower. It'll be my first winter with it. We'll see how it goes. I kind of jumped into this heat pump because in May when it was really hot, found out my air conditioner wasn't working. So I asked my energy auditor, who do you know that sells heat pumps? And they directed me to someone. Most contractors here don't really promote them or have any interest in them, though in other parts of the country, they're pretty common. Perhaps a good Go Green Illinois initiative might be to find contractors in our areas who are interested in doing heat pump work. So that's how the heat pump works. That's an air source heat pump. There's also geothermal source heat pumps, where rather than pulling heat out of the air, they're actually pulling heat out of the ground. And if you dig down far enough, the ground around here stays about 50 degrees year round. So you can actually use the heat in the ground via a heat pump to heat your house and also to cool your house. So on this weekend's for the energy tour, there's a couple houses that have geothermal that would be really interesting to check out. But the real key thing here is to plan ahead, right? Because your next purchase is going to lock in emissions from that gas unit for the next 15 years or so. So if your furnace or your air conditioner is over 10 years old, think about taking steps towards replacement. Do a little research on heat pumps, find a contractor that has an interest in them. And, maybe before it's an emergency, go ahead and get it fixed, because no one wants to, be Friday night finding out that, there's no air conditioning and it's 90 degrees. It's best to fix these things, replace them before it's that emergency. Other things though, with heating and air conditioning, a lot on the cheaper side, just make sure you have clean filters, right? So it's going to enable your unit to work a lot more efficiency and actually prolong its life. ComEd has a demand response program called AC cycling. So essentially what they do is they install a little thing on your air conditioner. When there's periods of really high demand over the summer months, they'll actually cycle down your air conditioner for 15 minutes out of an hour. That reduces the overall demand on the grid, reduces the need for peaker plants, and they give you a $5 bill credit. So as time goes on, this sort of demand response thing is going to become more and more common as a way of reducing energy need and making everything a lot more efficient. All right, so that's the HVAC. And then we also, right next to it, we've got the water heater. So if you feel the pipes coming out of your water heater, one of them is going to be really hot. That's your hot water outlet pipe. And if it's hot, it means it's constantly just leaking heat into your basement. And that's just wasted money, wasted energy. So a real simple fix for that is just getting some pipe insulation, as I got here on the left side on the hot outflow. ComEd will do this for you with their home energy assessment, or you can spend $5 at the hardware store. Copper piping comes in different diameters, so check yours first before you buy it. That's a simple fix. When I had my energy auditor come, I had a gas water heater and a gas furnace, and the way the venting and the air intake was in my basement, if the furnace was on and the water heater was on, the furnace would draw such a draft that it would actually pull some of the exhaust from the water heater away from its chimney stack. And there was actually danger of carbon monoxide coming into our house. So that was a good reason to replace it for me. I don't want that stuff in my house. And also it was about 12 years old. And, again, I didn't want to replace it in an emergency situation when my basement was flooded, or I had to go to work and find out I had no hot water for a shower. But heat pump water heaters can save 100 million tons of carbon per year. In California and in Hawaii, they have a demand response program. My water heater here has some hardware there that can communicate with the utility. So essentially similar to the air conditioning, in times of high demand, the utility can lower the thermostat on the water heater, or when times that energy is really cheap, they can actually raise the thermostat, in essence, using everyone's water heaters as a giant grid battery. And they have new heat pump water heaters now that are just coming out that plug into a regular 120 volt outlet. So it makes it really, really simple just to replace your gas water heater for a heat pump water heater. But again, the key thing here is to plan ahead, because a lot of the plumbing contractors out there, they don't really know much about these. They don't push them. They don't sell them. They're going to try and push you towards whatever they have in stock. And that's going to lock in your carbon emissions again for the next 10 to 15 years. And we just don't have that kind of time. All right. Well, back upstairs to the office or the den, where I spend too much time sitting in front of my computer. Beth mentioned that there's going to be a future Go Green Wilmette talk about green investing, so I'm not going to touch on that too much right now, but I just want to draw everyone's attention to a report that came out last year called Banking on Climate Chaos. Chances are your bank funds climate change. So Chase, Citi, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo are among the top banks that fund fossil fuel extraction and development in the world. So check out Banking on Climate Chaos. Consider banking local or with other companies. Or if you do have an account there, let them know that you have a problem with that. And while you're on your computer, again, I encourage you to be involved politically. And elections are really, really crucial. Share what you're doing with your neighbors, with your friends. Take it beyond your home, because if one person does this, it doesn't make a big difference. But if we all do this collectively, we can give the planet half a chance. So, like I said, I'm going to have Beth send out a collection of resources with links to most of what I talked about. And at this point, I'll stop sharing, and I'm happy to answer questions and chat more.
Okay, thanks very much. I thought I had started my video. Thanks, Jay. That's the second time I've watched this program, and there's so many great tips that anyone can use at home. Some of the things that really jump out at me is when you keep saying plan ahead. You don't want to replace any of these major appliances in a crisis, because you'll take what's available and you won't have a lot of good options. I also love what you say about take it beyond your own door. I call this being an influencer. We all have an opportunity to influence other people in a positive way. And for every good change that we put in place, if we can convince one other person to follow our lead, we've doubled our impact. If you can influence 2 people to do it, you've tripled your impact. So that's an opportunity that we all have. Anything that we do that we're excited about that's working for us, if we can just spread the word and let people know about it as well. So we're going to answer some of the questions. I've got some questions too. So wow, we've got 9 questions in the Q&A. So we'll start with that. You'll notice in the chat, I was putting a few things in the chat. So if you haven't seen that, you can take a look at the chat. I drive a Chevy Bolt. Jay and I both love our Chevy Bolts. They're phenomenal cars. If you want a little bit of inspiration for natural gardening, Doug Tallamy's book, Nature's Best Hope, is phenomenal. Also, you showed the single induction burner. I followed your lead and Kim Stone's lead of Highland Park, and I got a single Dux top induction burner. They say that most of our cooking is on one burner. So if you replace your most primary burner with an induction, you are going to reduce the chemicals that you're putting into your own air in your own home, and also clean. It's a much more efficient way to cook. So, and again, it's like $160. So that's what I put in the chat. Let's look at the Q&A and see what people have to. Okay, so part of it, everybody wants to know, but who should I call? And so people are always looking for recommendations. And this is kind of tough because it's a little hard to endorse companies. So Bernadette Knight, Northbrook, I think, wanted to know if you can recommend an installer for air heat exchanger to replace an old energy AC unit. And you can, if you like the company you work for, Jay, feel free to mention their name.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say who I use. I use Shavitz. They're based out of Skokie. They were recommended by my energy auditor. I bought it in sort of an emergency because I needed to get something fast, and they're a company that is like, yeah, we've got heat pumps, we install them all the time. So I think if I were to do it all again, I would probably maybe talk to a couple companies, do a little more research ahead of time. But again, like I said, it was an emergency purchase. So that's why I encourage people to plan ahead, see how old these big major utility appliances are, so you can buy smart.
Right. Jay, you're right that a lot of companies, they do not want to recommend something new. They like to use the tried and true, and they are not going to steer you toward these new products. We have a gas-powered tankless water heater, and we could not find a contractor around here who wanted to put one in. And for years, we have not been, heating up an entire tank of water. The tankless water heater works great. We never run out of hot water, but you will be hard pressed to find a contractor that wants to put it in. Alan George had a specific question that I think I'll answer. He said he signed up for the Wilmette Community Solar Program, but he hasn't heard anything. And he wants to know what the issue is. Alan, there's a new person in Wilmette. Her name is Sarah Phyre, Phyfer. She is going to be at the EV show at a table about community solar. So I know you won't be in town, Alan, but you want to talk to Sarah about the program. There was such demand for the community solar projects that they can't expand anymore until I think the next year. And there has been some delays of getting those programs up and running, but it's coming. Takes a little bit of patience, unfortunately. Okay, Terry Becker, she has a really great question that I wondered about. That insulation in your attic looks a little scary. She says, does spray foam insulation contain harmful chemicals? Is there off-gassing, and should we be concerned about that?
Yeah, I just want to mention one other thing with regard to Bernadette's question and what you were saying about how it's really hard to find people. I think the more all of us call contractors and say, are you guys doing heat pumps? They're going to get the idea that there's a buzz out there about this. The Inflation Reduction Act has put this heat pump thing right out in the public's mind. There's money that is going to be given out to people to put heat pumps in their house. So the more we can call people, create a buzz about this. And if you find companies that are interested, tell other people, post it, tell your Go Green groups. They'll know the market's moving that direction, then they'll follow. It's not that much different than what they're doing right now in terms of the complexity. But they just need to know that the market needs to move in that direction. But in terms of the spray foam insulation, there is a, I think what did I call it? The propellant or something like that. There's different things that they use to kind of shoot the foam out. And some of this stuff is more nasty and bad in terms of greenhouse gases. When we had our insulation done, they said stay out of the house. They had us stay out of the house for a night, essentially, and then we were back in. So that's the extent of it as far as I know.
And it's generally is up in an attic where there's not a lot of
up in the attic or or behind
off.
walls. Yeah.
Right. But that's a really legitimate question. Okay, Trudy Gibbs is interested in your recommendation for laundry soap. Where can she buy it?
Yeah, I think Laura just found it for her.
Do you get it online?
Jenny gets it. Yeah, I think she gets it online. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that we all can do in almost all of our grocery stores, certainly I would say Trader Joe's, definitely in Whole Foods, there's now laundry sheets. We should never, ever, ever, ever buy another jug of laundry detergent again. It's mostly water. Those big jugs, even if they get recycled, it's really downcycling. So that's a big shift. It's a really easy shift is to change how what kind of laundry soap we use.
Yeah, dishwasher detergent too. We get powdered stuff in a box from Trader Joe's. It works just fine. Great.
Yeah, I get not natural dishwashing detergent, but it is in a cardboard box that I insist on. Okay, so Jenny says you have a subscription and the refills come in a paper lunch sack. That's awesome. That's great. Okay, Bernadette Knight says, she's just saying that she does hang her laundry out and she is recommending that other people do that. I will tell you that there are some communities that have ordinances that make that illegal. I understand at one point, probably still illegal in Winnetka, police were called to someone's house to explain to the European family that had just settled there that it was illegal to dry their laundry on a line. They may have changed that, but check if your community does not allow you to dry your clothes outside, that's an ordinance that you could work on changing. Okay, Terry Becker would like to know whether a heat pump dryer would use a regular electrical outlet, or would that need 220?
I believe they need a 220, same as what an electric clothes dryer uses.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Jay, that brings up the question. You didn't mention EV chargers installed in your garage or on the outside of your house. Can you mention that just quickly? As more and more people are interested in EV cars, we're going to want to figure out how to charge them at home.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what most people in the suburbs would do, I would assume. Yeah, I come home from work a couple days a week, I plug it in, and in the morning it's charged. It does require running a 220 line for that. So, not everybody's house is set up in such a way where that's really easy. If you only have 100 amp service to your electric panel, then that could be an issue as well. So some people do have to get electric panel upgrades, although there's some new devices out there that kind of sidestep that issue. And there's money in the Inflation Reduction Act for people to upgrade their service panels as well.
Right. And if you put an EV charger in your house and you go to sell your house, I think that's going to be a huge plus, because people are not going to be continuing to drive gas cars. They're just not going to. So that's going to be an amenity that's going to be of value as you sell your house. There's a family in Wilmette that did not want to trench a 220 line into their garage. They have a detached garage. And so he put it on his front porch. And it hangs on the wall, kind of looks like an old-fashioned phone on his porch. He pulls into his driveway, plugs in his car in the driveway, and the 220 is in the house. Almost every house has 220. So that's a way you can save a little money if you don't want to trench into a detached garage. Okay, so Patty Greenberg would like to know what you think about tankless hot water heaters or tankless water heaters.
I think they're good in the right situation. They are the ones that are most efficient are gas powered. The electric tankless water heaters are not very efficient. For you, Beth, and I know in your other house, you don't want to have a whole tank of water that's hot all the time. So if it's just something you're using every once in a while, seems pretty ideal. The tankless water heaters are a lot more efficient. The gas ones are a lot more efficient than the gas tank water heaters. They're pretty close to 100% efficient, actually, the tankless water heaters. But a heat pump, electricity-based, 300 to 400% efficient. So tankless water heater, it's a step in the right direction, I think. But you're still relying on fossil fuels to heat your water.
Right.
So an improvement, but not perfect.
So one of the things that I find super frustrating, Jay, and you can maybe speak to this, is the fact that it's incredibly easy to heat water with sunshine. And we had solar thermal panels put on our house about 20 years ago, and we have been heating our hot water with solar thermal ever since. We also have a regular hot water heater. So if it's gray or we use a ton of water, we do have a backup water heater. But apparently it is so cheap to heat water with gas, fossil gas, as Jay calls it, that you can't even buy solar thermal panels to heat water on your roof. What have you heard about that?
Yeah, so you don't hear much about that anymore. It used to be more common before photovoltaic got really cheap. So I think if you have a limited roof space, you're probably going to be best served putting up photovoltaic panels up there, as opposed to the thermal water heater panels up there. And
Right.
the tax incentives really aren't there for the solar water heater like they are for the photovoltaic.
Right. Okay, next question. Catherine Lotz, thanking you, said great information. All right, we've got another Chevy Bolt lover. When I asked people, we had a spin wheel at a little fair, and we were asking people to name electric cars. And literally the only car anyone could name was the Tesla. And there are so many other cars that are available, and people think that electric cars are expensive. The Chevy Bolt, once you get some rebates, is under $30,000. And Jay and I have both been driving these cars for years, not going to gasoline stations. So electric cars start under 30,000 and they go way up from there. But please spread the word that EV cars are not just for wealthy people with a lot of expendable money. Okay, so Maria, So citizens, she's mentioning that Citizen Utility Board email said that ComEd had raised their prices. And that she was told it wasn't a good time to change over to hourly pricing. She lives in Chicago. She doesn't own her own home. So she rents, so she doesn't have solar. Should someone like Maria be part of hourly pricing? And Jay, could you also suggest to her the option of community solar?
Yeah, so Maria, I think you're right. You know, the real-time pricing has gone up. I've kind of watched it over the last few years, and the average price of electricity certainly has gone up. I mean, we know that's been with all with electricity, with fossil gas, everything has gone up. The fact is, I'm still able to take advantage of that because I'm producing energy and I'm selling it back to the grid at that higher price. And at night, I'm taking it off the grid at a lower price because I have the electric car. If you don't have solar and you don't have an electric car, you're not going to save money. You'll probably pay more by doing that. You should still think about shifting your usage to times of lower demand just to keep the grid cleaner. ComEd does have some different incentives to reduce energy use, even when you're not on the hourly pricing. They send out sort of like price alerts and things like that. And if you're part of that program, I believe they'll still give you an incentive for that. But I think for you, for anyone who doesn't have their own solar, they should get on community solar. There's really no reason not to. You're guaranteed to save money versus ComEd's base rate. And community solar is a flat rate. It's not an hourly rate. There's a little bit extra paperwork in the beginning. The billing may be a little bit more complicated initially, but it doesn't change the way you use electricity. There's a number of companies out there, as Beth alluded to earlier. The initial sort of community solar subscriptions all got filled up. There's only so much money that was allotted by the state under the original Future Energy Jobs Act. That all got used up. But with the more recent Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, they've refilled the pots of money to kind of subsidize the build out of community solar. So all those companies are now rushing back and getting their shovels ready. And once their kind of projects are all in the pipeline, they'll be looking for subscribers. So I would definitely encourage everybody, if you don't make your own electricity, subscribe to a community solar program.
Thanks, Jay. Those programs will save you guaranteed 20% off your energy portion of the bill. Your fees will stay the same, but of the energy portion, you have a guaranteed 20% off whatever the ComEd rate, however it fluctuates, you will always be 20% lower. There is no reason not to. And a lot of people think you need to be a homeowner to do that. That's not the case. It goes with you from rental apartment to rental apartment. If you have a condo, it's a really great thing for everyone to do. Bernadette Knight wants to remind all of you that Go Green Northbrook and Greener Glenview have partnered together on joining the solar tour. So they have 20 homes in Northbrook and Glenview that you can see. Jay, how many homes are in Highland Park on the tour?
We have 8 homes, a school, and a park district building.
Fantastic. Wilmette has about 12. 6 of them are in-person tours. So you will go to someone's house and you will talk to an enthusiastic solar owner. Many of you know that Go Green Wilmette has helped other communities start similar community-based environmental groups. And we're very excited that Go Green Glen Ellen, Greener Glenview, Go Green Northbrook, Highland Park, Wilmette, Park Ridge have all added homes to the solar tour. And we've significantly increased the number of homes on that tour because of this collaboration between the Go Green groups. So yeah, don't miss that. So Laura Farlick says that she plugs her EV Hyundai Kona into a regular old wall outlet outside. This is called trickle charging on a 110 outlet, and you actually can do that. It takes a while. And it just depends on how you use your car. And if you're just driving around town, a lot of us drive 10 miles a day or 10 miles every other day. Trickle charging works for that. we rented a cabin and they had a trickle charger. They installed a cheap charger that was just fine. We would charge our car for 12 hours a night when we were at the cabin, and that was all we needed for the day. Jenny Futterman wants everyone to know that their house is on the tour, so you can see in the Q&A the link for that solar tour. Andrew Hoffman. Andrew dries his clothes inside during the winter with the folding clothesline, and yeah, it helps humidify your house. That actually dries super fast inside. So Andrew, thank you for sharing that. Betsy Pilmer says that she'd like to install solar panels, but she was told that there was too much shade from trees. Is there a company you would recommend to evaluate this option?
Yeah, shading is an issue, but you don't need to install panels on the south side of the house. Ours are on the east and west side. So if you have, viable roof space on one of those sides, that could be an option as well. I would direct you to illinoissolar.org. That's Illinois Solar Energy Association's website, and they have find a contractor tabs there where you can find solar energy companies in your area. And I would, generally when I advise people on solar, I say have at least 3 people come out and get their ideas, and they may have different options for you.
ComEd has a very simple tool. If you go to the ComEd website and you key in your account number and you ask to use their solar calculator, it will instantly show your house with a, it's not a fine-tuned calculator, but it can show you very quickly whether you're a good candidate for solar or not. That being said, part of it depends on your expectations and how motivated you are. One of the homes on our tour is owned by Andre and Nancy Pavkovich, and they have a very shady roof. They have a complicated roof, and they really wanted solar. And so they have solar panels on various different roof surfaces, and some of them seem quite shady. So if you, Betsy, you might want to come to Wilmette on Saturday and go to that house to see and talk to them about their panels. Obviously, they're not going to be as efficient. Kind of depends on how motivated you are. Our panels face southwest. There are panels that can face all kinds of directions. Okay, so Candace says Teslas will charge slowly with only 110 line. So you can add about 30 miles a night. Now, for a lot of our driving around town, 30 miles a day is more than adequate. So for Candace for that comment. Jay has been talking to me about electric cars for at least a decade. He wants to know if you've considered installing power walls to also interface with the utility and using your Bolt for the same purpose. I've been hearing that it could be that EV cars might start putting energy back in the grid during high demand times.
Yeah, Tom, nice to hear from you. So in Illinois, we have a pretty reliable grid. We have a very favorable, what we call net metering policy. So when I'm producing extra energy, I can sell it back to the grid at a really good price. Other states aren't like that though. So for me personally, I don't really feel the need yet to get a battery, and batteries are pretty expensive. Most like the Tesla Powerwalls and most of the other batteries are lithium based, and the price of lithium is going up quite a bit because there's such a demand for it. ComEd doesn't really pay for that service at this point. But in the future, absolutely, this is going to get more and more common. If we have with the car, this is called vehicle to grid technology. As the electric car batteries get more and more robust and last longer and longer, absolutely, they're going to be part of the grid. You're going to plug your car in, and when the grid needs energy, you'll sell it off your car to the grid, and then you'll soak it back up later. That's definitely the direction things are going. I don't think we're quite there yet, but I think things are going to change a lot faster than we expect.
Thanks, Jay. Maria mentions that some of the very eco-friendly laundry options don't clean quite as well as like Powerful Tide. She uses True Laundry strips and finds that sometimes she needs more. it is true, if you have dirty football uniforms, you may have to double up on your eco-friendly laundry detergent in that case. Bernadette Knight has a complicated question about ComEd hourly pricing. Is it true that if you switch to hourly electricity pricing, you can't switch back to standard rate for a year? Do you know, Jay?
I'm not sure. I know that if you go from hourly to standard, you can't switch back to hourly for a year, but I don't know if you're an hourly, you're not able to switch back to
You might
standard.
have to check with ComEd on that one, Bernadette.
Yeah, I would check with them. You know, one of the interesting things when I first enrolled with the hourly program was that there's a line item that you're going to get called a capacity charge, which basically refers to how much electricity you use during the 5 highest demand periods during the previous year. And when I first got my solar panels, I was all gung-ho and I got on that hourly program, and I got hit every month with this really big capacity charge. So I was actually paying a lot more for being on hourly as opposed to the flat rate. So I switched out. I did it for like 3-4 months and I said, this is not for me. This capacity charge is ridiculous. Then I waited a year and found during those peak demand times, I was generally pushing energy back to the grid. So now my capacity charge, this latest bill is like $1, whereas it was like $13 when I first started. So you just have to be careful of that capacity charge, I'd say, but check with ComEd about the switching back and forth. I don't know for sure.
Okay, so that's the end of our questions, but I had made some notes. So if you don't mind, Jay, we're going to continue. You mentioned about composting. Wanted to mention that a lot of communities now have curbside composting, at least seasonally, like April to November. You could fill a 35-gallon bag for $2.50. I mean, you could compost a neighborhood's food for $2.50 in Wilmette, and almost no one is taking advantage of it. You could also compost in your backyard, limited pretty much to fruit and veggies. The Wilmette curbside and many other community curbside programs, they exist. And if they don't in your community, that's something you could ask for. That's very inexpensive, but it stops for the winter. Collective Resource is one of several professional services where they will bring you a clean bucket, you fill it up, and you pay them every week or every 2 weeks to have that bucket taken and replaced with a new bucket. If you are not currently composting, please keep in mind that that is a really feel-good change that you could make. And it really does make a difference. We should not be transporting and dumping food into garbage dumps. So that's a change. Okay, Jay, one thing that I've heard about is electric kettles. If you are heating up a lot of water on your stove, it's much more efficient, isn't it, Jay, to have an electric kettle as opposed to doing that on a gas burner?
I think so. I think that the most efficient, fastest way is going to be with your induction cooktop. That's probably faster. An electric kettle, I think, is still an electric resistance mechanism, which tends to be a little less efficient than the induction cooktops. So you'd be amazed how fast the induction cooktop will boil water compared to the gas. But I'm not sure about that.
Okay, and also simply never boil more water than you need for your cup of tea. A lot of people will fill it up and then they'll create more water than they need. Okay, Jay, one of my things I'd love to see is to raise awareness about the fact that when people replace a refrigerator with a more efficient unit, that's terrific, except the old unit often ends up in the garage, plugged in with some cases of beer or pop or for occasional parties. These are inefficient older refrigerators, and any thoughts about what people should do with that?
Yeah, and they're running 24/7, regardless of whether you need them or not. So I would I guess say decommission those, and make sure you deal with the refrigerant inside. Don't just put them out in the garbage. I don't know if Swalco or Apt Electronics or or your waste hauler has specific ways of dealing with safely and ecologically disposing of them. Or if you feel like you really need something, an extra fridge, get a mini fridge. Don't use that old hulking thing in the
Right.
garage.
Okay, good. Geothermal is something that is pretty confusing for most people. I just wanted to mention that this Saturday, we are going to have 2 homeowners that have geothermal systems that are opening their home. And you can find out where they are on the website for Go Green Wilmette. And we found 2 really great webinars. 2 of our homeowners have created webinars. That's on the Go Green Wilmette YouTube channel, but we found one from the Department of Energy, and we have links to that. But there's also a great one from This Old House. Now that's a source we know and love. This Old House has a longer video about geothermal that's really very interesting. Okay, so I love, Jay, I love the fact that you call it fossil gas, not natural gas. They're working really hard to make us think that that's a clean alternative, and it's really not. You also mentioned greener lawn care. I think this is a movement that we all can be part of, having less lawn, more native plantings. And if you have a lawn care service, it's a great thing to do, to talk to them and say, you want cleaner, greener, quieter lawn care, and you want them to keep not use gas powered leaf blowers on your property, mow less frequently. There's a lot of ways that you can do that. So it's almost 8:15. So I just want to thank all of you for spending time with us here tonight. If you found this valuable, I hope you will refer people to Go Green Wilmette's YouTube channel. I'll be downloading it tonight. It'll be available tomorrow. So anything you can do to be an influencer is really valuable. Again, I'd like to invite all of you to participate in the Renewable Energy Day and the Illinois Solar Energy Tour. It's all over the state, with lots of homes in the northern suburbs. If you go to illinoissolar.org and you click on northern sites, you will see the solar houses all through the north and northwest suburbs. Go to Highland Park to see their homes. Come to Wilmette. We have an EV car show. I think chances are most people on this webinar are not going to buy another gas car, because there's no reason not to buy electric cars at this point. They are fast, they are clean, they don't break down, they are the future. So in the parking lot in Wilmette, in downtown Wilmette near the library, we're going to have 15 different models of EV cars in one place at one time. No salespeople, just enthusiastic owners trying to convince you that the car they bought was the very best one for you to buy. So take some time, go kick some tires, and see some interesting bikes, and also stop by the Glencoe Community Garden and see the Power Tower climate change exhibit. You can see the website is powertower.org. It's a really great website and a great exhibit, and we hope to have some of our guests explore their exhibit. So Jay, with that, is there anything else you'd like to conclude with?
I just say thank you again for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Okay, Jay, you are such a great resource for all of us. Appreciate it. And so at this point, we're going to stop the recording. Thank you very much.